Hey there, it is Faith Talk Live. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
If you're watching Facebook Live or YouTube Live, you'll see Trace Embry there. He is the founder and director of Shepherd's Hill Academy. Trace, how are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
We're doing great. Good to have you today. Also, I should mention that Trace does stand up on the side. He was doing some really amazing dad jokes. And thanks for the material because I still have two at home.
Yes.
Love the eye roll. Hey, let's catch up with you. What an amazing thing you guys have put together. First of all, Shepherd's Hill Academy, before we get into the specifics, how long have you been around?
Well, Shepherd's Hill has been here since 1994, but we didn't take our first student in residence for our school and our therapeutic program until 2001. So we're celebrating our 20th year, and on the 20th of this year, we'll have 20 years in. So everyone's invited.
Wow, 20 years and doing some great work in the middle of nowhere. You said where you are, there's 300 people there, right?
Yeah, 300 people in the great city of, it is a city, it has a mayor in Martin, Georgia. But yet we've got kids from every state in the union, virtually every state in the union, and 19 other countries come to live in our woods for an entire year. Unplugged, digitally unplugged, no running water and no electricity in their living quarters. And that really is a plus for their therapeutic recovery.
This is specifically for troubled teens. And as you mentioned, for 20 years, I'm sure you've learned a ton over the last 20 years. Who came up with the idea? I love this idea. No electricity, no smartphones. You're out in the woods. You run with horses. You're just out there in the outback, if you will. Yeah. Whose idea was that?
Well, I hate to sound cliche, but it was God's idea. Our whole paradigm is, the kids can never be first in our lives. God's got to be first. Hear from Him. He'll show you the way, and that's what we teach to our kids. I believe that's what's bringing them the healing. And again, at the risk of sounding cliche, that is the key: is hearing from the Lord and doing what He's told you to do. And He's told us to do some pretty strange things in the eyes of the secular world over the years. But it's in the words of Dr. John Townsend, Shepherd's Hill Academy is a world-class program. And I think the fact that we've got kids from all over the globe is a testimony to that fact. And yeah, you'll see, we'll get slandered. We look like the nut jobs when in fact, I think the whole world might be a little bit messed up in this particular.
Yes,
that's for sure. So tell us the kind of, when the kids get there, I'm sure it's kind of a culture shock for them, not being able to use their phones and everything that they're used to. Tell us the adjustment that they go through.
Well, it's like a detox. It really is in a lot of ways a chemical detox. Most of these kids come here digitally addicted, and according to Dr. Archibald Hart, God rest his soul, he just passed away, wrote a book that he states in there that this was 15 years ago, before smartphones came on the scene, that 80% of the American public is anhedonic, which is a clinical term for basically we're addicted to pleasure. And so when these kids come here, it's a chemical addiction. It's a dopamine rush, every click on the internet, on their smartphone. Here, they don't have that. So it does become quite a cultural shock, but it's a shock to their physical system as well. But they get over it really, really fast. And it's not easy, but it doesn't take too long. And they start acclimating to a new way of life to the point where by the end of the year, it's almost like they could be teaching this stuff. And they have a whole new perspective on reality, because really a lot of the kids will tell you they've been living in a digital matrix all their lives. And this is the first generation, all of human history, that out of the womb has grown up really with a smartphone growing out of their ear, which is a whole other story. It's not the way it should be for a healthy kid anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Trace Embry, he is the founder and director at Shepherd's Hill Academy. You can go to shepherdshillacademy.org. He also has a syndicated show. And is that a daily show or a weekly show, Trace?
It's a daily 1-minute feature and a weekly 30-minute broadcast that we've had Dr. Dobson, we've had Tucker Carlson. I mean, you name it. If it has anything to do with culture and culture's influence on kids and parenting, we discuss it, because the culture, particularly via smartphones, is the other parent today. And it's not a very good parent. It's more like a Charles Manson parent or a Larry Flint parent or Bundy parent. And we have bought into a new systemic way of doing life and parenting by giving kids these little digital babysitters. And I'm just the little boy in the story of The Emperor's New Clothes who's stupid enough to say, "Are you people crazy? It's the elephant in the room. You can't pull the lever on a slot machine until you're 21 years old because of the addictive nature of that device. But we're giving our kids 24/7 access at these young, tender ages where their brain's still developing to everything, beheadings, true death videos, the grossest kind of pornography. And the kids are sleeping with these things under their pillow, not to mention virtual access and actual access, in the case of a lot of social media, to sex traffickers and all the people I just mentioned, the bad guys. Basically, we're giving our kids, it's like dropping them off at the seedy side of town. What are we thinking? I don't understand it. But every kid that comes to Shepherd's Hill for the past 10 plus years, you can link all of their issues back to a smartphone, and even before that, you can link it back to the internet.
Now, Trace, aside from taking the phone and not having really any digital presence at all, what other kind of curriculum do you guys work with these kids on?
Well, standard, STEM type stuff, reading, writing, arithmetic, and all the rest. Things that the public schools are failing miserably in today. I think I just saw a statistic where America used to be number 1 in all these categories. We're 37th. There's nations I can't even pronounce that are ahead of us in education, in math and whatnot, science and history. Of course, our history is being revised. All of these things, these cultural influences, this revisionist history and the like, are adding to the confusion and the chaos and the insecurities that our kids are experiencing today. And if there is something systemic in America today, it's not racism. Okay, not that there isn't racism, because there is and always will be, but there's not systemic racism. What there is systemically in America is insanity, is mental illness. When 1 in 10 kids are going to be on some kind of behavior med by the time they're 18, that's systemic by anyone's definition. And that's where we're at right now.
Wow.
Trace Embry is the founder and director of Shepherd's Hill Academy. You can find out more at shepherdshillacademy.org. You mentioned a year. Is the program 1 year for each teen, or is it longer?
Yes, sir. It's a year minimum. So some kids require a little longer than that. Some kids, depending on the calendar year of the school schedule, might get out in 11 months, depending if their parents and our therapeutic team feel like it's the right thing to do. But it's an average a year, and we advertise a year. Most programs are advertising 18 months. We're still getting it done in a year.
Now, go ahead, Dan.
I was just going to say, tell us a success story of someone that you've had come through the program and you just saw a phenomenal change in their lives.
Yeah, my gosh, I could keep here the rest of the day with those things. But the one that comes to mind is a kid that came here, and the first thing he said to me is, "I'm going to rape your daughter before I leave here."
Oh, okay.
My response was, "I thought you didn't believe in the Holy Spirit." And he says, "Well, I don't." And I said, "Well, you must, because the Holy Spirit's the only thing keeping me from killing you right now." But we had a little chuckle over that. But this kid, claimed to be demon possessed, and self proclamation. But this kid, terribly drug addicted, and he was the first Shepherd's Hill and only Shepherd's Hill alumni to come back and work as a counselor after he went to 4 years of the same Bible college I actually went to in Toccoa, Georgia. I'm not a native of Georgia. I'm a native of the Chicago area, but I went to Bible college here, and that's what got us started here at Shepherd's Hill. But this kid went on to just recently, here in the last few months, got his doctorate degree in nursing. He's a full-time dad to 3 beautiful kids. Married a good, godly girl from Missouri. Met her at Bible college, and he's a part-time youth pastor right now.
Wow!
So that's one example of many I could give you. It's incredible what just stimulating these kids, and we know through epigenetics what outside stimuli does to human beings at the cellular level, including the brain cells, and everything that we do here at Shepherd's Hill is designed to do just that in a positive way. But the first thing you have to understand is define positive, define good and right, define evil, and then know where to go from there and stimulate the kids with all the right things. And that's what we're doing here. We're giving them a snowball's chance in Hades of actually being able to return back into that matrix that they came from, to not just survive it, but to transform it. And with apologetics, these kids are able to go toe-to-toe with a 50-year-old college professor and not be talked out of their faith, maybe influence the college professor to acquire their faith.
That's so good. Trace Embry, he's the founder and director of Shepherd's Hill Academy. What's the criteria for students, teens to come in? I'm sure there's a long list of people that would love to get their kids there. Do you have the room?
We have to turn away about 400 families a month.
Wow.
And, the tragedy behind residential care is how expensive it is. Right now we have between, depending on, I don't know the exact, it can fluctuate pretty regularly, 60 to 70 staff members for 20 kids. We're licensed for 36. By the time the school year starts, we'll be up closer to that 36. The summer months are always slow. But kids come here with all kinds of issues from A to Z. We're not going to accept kids who are going to kill someone in their sleep, who are a sexual predator, those type of kids. There are institutions for those type of kids. God can still heal those type of kids. He's just not going to do it here. So our first goal is to make sure that every student and staff is safe. And again, even that is hearing from the Lord. But every kid requires a psychological evaluation before they come here. And by faith, we look through those things to make sure that we're not taking a kid here that needs to be, maybe in a hospital facility or something.
Wow. Trace Embry, Shepherd's Hill Academy. Go to shepherdshillacademy.com. Trace, we got to take a break. Folks can hear your syndicated show where, when, and then the minute ones on your website?
Sure. They can go to license2parent.org, license2parent.org, and they can just click the archives, and they can get as many 1-minute features as they want to, and as many 30-minute features as they want to. And it's the top professional Christian minds and sometimes secular minds of the world who we go into dialogue about how to keep our kids healthy and sane in an insane world.
Oh. Thanks for what you do, Trace. That's great work.
Thanks for the opportunity.
We appreciate you paying the price and helping so many.
By the way, if someone would like to get our book, we have a forthcoming book, The Miracles of Shepherd's Hill, which gives our story from A to Z. And it's if you weren't a believer before you opened it up, you'd be a believer when you close it. I guarantee you that.
Wow.
shepherdshillacademy.org. Check it out. Trace, thank you so much. We'd love to talk to you again if you're up for it. Hey, let's take a break. Hey, we'll take a break. We'll be right back. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
This is Faith Talk Live.